Hey guys! So my name's Helena. Today we're going to talk about, well, good and evil in the second one, Tannhäuser. So obviously we know already what's going on in Tannhäuser, and it's not that bad as it is in The Flying Dutchman, that we say we don't know who good is, we don't know who evil is, because Wagner himself tells us who we should think they are, which is, by the way, pretty preposterous. On the other hand, man, he wrote all of this himself, so this is probably the biggest plus and minus in this whole ordeal, that there's like no one who said, boy, you're maybe doing this or that, that's not good. He did it all himself, so this means his opinions, also his political opinions, are very present in his works. I don't want to say operas but we're still in the opera realm with this one. In 2 weeks we won't be anymore. So, I kind of named this series, by the way, a bit wrongly, because I called it the Protagonist Antagonist series. I think it's more of a who's the good one, who's the evil one in this work. Wanted to say opera again. Pains me every time if I have to say this, but unfortunately it is a thing in English, and unfortunately most people today say Wagner's operas, and I'm like, no. It's not. It's only pre-exile. That's operas, and then afterwards, no, it's not anymore. But anyway, so Tannhäuser. And we've got the next thing with our ambiguous hero. Obviously, Tannhäuser is not good or bad. He's like in the space between. He's kind of thrown around between the two extremes in this case, which is the two women. Tannhäuser himself, he's really not completely good and not completely bad either, because obviously he chose to go to Venus and chose to live with her for 7 years, and then he chose to abide her and be Catholic again. So he's kind of in this run in between, and in the end he's like, yeah, come on, get me back to Venus, basically. Which doesn't work, obviously. We know that, but that's what it is. So, good and evil. So, the two women, obviously, because that's what Tannhäuser is really choosing about, in choosing of. Heavens, it's not gonna get good. Anyway, because obviously you have the satanic, the non-Christian woman, you have Venus, and you have the Christian woman who is Elizabeth, and she's obviously in this case the better choice for Tannhäuser, or that's what they want us to believe. Obviously, if we look at the famous list of Wagner's Jewish knight characters, we see Venus. Venus is in there. So also want to take this chance to say, yes, he was anti-Semitic, but he was not anti-Semitic because of religion. Very obviously, because Venus, well, how should I put that? She's a Roman goddess. Of the 3 women who are Jewish knight figures, there's only really one who could be Jewish. The other one's a Roman goddess, and the other one is a Nordic priest. We're gonna get to her next week. Nordic Germanic priest. So this has nothing to do with religion. It just has to do with his communist and extremist beliefs, that he said Jewish people are people who want to take stuff away from us as the society and keep it to themselves, such as Tannhäuser, such as later the gold in the ring, such as later the being the Duke and Duchess of Heaven, Brabant. That's the stuff that he means. So this is a very communist view on the whole Wagner thing. The whole Wagner thing, no, on the whole Jewish thing, on the whole anti-Semitic thing. Just want to be very clear in that. So, which doesn't make it better, by the way. There's no good version of it's also no good form of communism, other than in a kibbutz in Israel. And, well, that's not a good example in this one. There is no good form of anti-Semitism, but I want to be clear that this is not religion-driven, okay? Very obviously. Okay, we're gonna start with Venus. So she's obviously made out to be the bad guy in this opera. Always don't want to say opera. Anyway, she's obviously made out to be the bad guy in this opera. She's the satanic, she's the non-Christian, and I forgot that word. I love that word. The like, when you say non-Christian, there's another word in English. Anyway, I forgot. Maybe I come to it. There's too much musicology right now and there. I have my exam next week, so... Anyway. Venus is very obviously the bad guy in this situation, so she kind of seduces him. It's also another thing with Wagner that he's mostly, other than the ring, the physical stuff and the physical desires are always worse than the, like, romantic love. Let's say it like this, because if you know that in Germanic mythology, there's one goddess for romantic love, which is Fricka, and there's one goddess for physical love, which is Freya. So this is the same for Wagner. He despises any form of physical love in his opera. For example, the famous wedding march in Lohengrin. Nothing happens. I don't know how anyone can get married to this. Like, honestly, A, he leaves her, B, nothing happens at the wedding night. Like, this is not a good point to start a marriage. But anyway, so we already start off with Venus being the Roman version of Freya, so that she's the physical love, she's the desire, and that's her persona. I don't know if you can see that, but she's also here on the reclam itself. So she's desire herself, basically. She's the most beautiful woman ever lived, and she's seductive, and she's wonderful, and she's, I don't know. Yeah, that's the bad thing if you look musicals. If you watch musicals, then you only have those things in your mind. She's basically like the Gypsy Rose Lee of goddesses. Let's be real. So we have her on one side. So she's very seductive. She's the epitome of what a woman is. And then we have Elisabeth, who's romantic love, and who's probably, in the way she carries herself, in her being demure, in her being sensible, in her being like praying all the time, let's be real. She's more of what you would have wanted in a wife, and with you I mean Wagner. So you're very nice, kind, sweet soprano. Let's just say soprano. At this point we all know like what the categories are. And for Elisabeth, she's the first E role of three. Elisabeth, Elsa and Eva, and they're all splash me. They're all, well, very soprano-esque and very demure and very classic. And they mostly have a mezzo-soprano who's completely different, other than Eva. This is the old pre-exile, post-exile thing. So Elisabeth's made out to be the perfect woman in a romantic sense. She's not seductive. She's most often, more than not, she's very veiled. She doesn't have those kind of frilly little outfits that stage Venus has to wear. She's really more made out to be the perfect wife. If I had to describe them in, I don't know, 19th century terms, I guess, or even 1960s terms. My mom's watching Mad Max, so there's a lot of a lot of talk about the 60s right now. So we would have said probably that Venus is the perfect woman and Elisabeth is the perfect wife, in that sense. And Tannhäuser is kind of, he's ambiguous. He doesn't know what he wants. He doesn't know, does he want this sensual, seductive, want to say nymphomaniac, but we're gonna say it, nymphomaniac type of woman, or does he want this demure, good, real kind of woman who is maybe not as adventurous, but who is, people would say, the vanilla option, which I don't like because I'm vanilla, obviously, but she's really the good kind of woman, so to say. She loves him honestly and she will do anything for him, and she's a trad wife, let's be real. There's a there's a lot of imagery today. Anyway, we've got those two poles, and there's really nothing else and no one else in Tannhäuser who is in the least being as the good one and the evil one as those two, because it's the only combination that works. You could also say, if we go back to last week with the Dutchman, that you have God again in one place in the form of Elisabeth, and we have Satan, or I don't know, Zeus probably, Jupiter probably in this case, in the form of Venus. So we're again in the battle of religions, but we're not, this time we're not battling hell and heaven, but we're battling two different religions, and what they mean for the time. And we also have to say that Wagner didn't like Catholics. He didn't like a lot of people. He didn't like French people, he didn't like Italians, he didn't like Jews, he didn't like Catholics. It's really, he didn't like kings in the beginning, then after he got money by a king, then he liked kings in the beginning, later. It's really, how shall I put this? He disliked a lot of people. Let's just be like this. I'm kind of glad that I wasn't born on his birthday. I'm like 2 days off. Well, anyway, as I said, with Tannhäuser, it's very, very easy. For next week, when we talk about Lohengrin, it will be almost as easy, but we have two different constellations about who could be bad and who could be good. And yes, it's based on sex and gender. Just how it is. I don't know, I love the overture to Tannhäuser. Anyway, it's a very short episode today, but that is because Tannhäuser is, I don't want to say easy, but it is easy in that way. Also, I want to say that there are, again, as always, productions where this is different. So there can be a production like the last production in Bayreuth, where he was like, Tannhäuser was violent, and I think it was kind of shown that Elisabeth had tried to kill herself because of him. So this is a different lens to it, and so Venus is kind of a bystander in this Tannhäuser's bad, Elisabeth's good thing, more or less. There's always any production that can happen, that can look at it a different way. I mean, see Valentin Schwarzring. Still mostly crying that I'm not going to see this anymore live on stage. I'm just going to say this as often as possible until someone like sends me a film of it, of like the second year or so. Just saying. But yeah, Tannhäuser is compared to others, a very, very easy one, even to The Ring. And we're gonna make a complete episode only about The Ring in general. If you look at The Ring in general, then you say, who's the bad guy in this? Who's the good guy in this overall? And then we're gonna have the 4 weeks in which we're going to look at, like, who's the bad one in Rheingold? Who's the bad one in Fricka? I already wanted to say Fricka in the Valkyrie. Anyway, because she is and this is she's one of the most misunderstood characters in opera history, I think. And I say opera history because why not at this point? Music theater history. Okay, let's say it like this. And we're gonna look at who's the bad one in Siegfried and who's the good one in Siegfried, and who's etc. So we're gonna have one overarching episode on this, and then we're gonna have like look through each one, which is also very easy. It's very easy in The Ring. It's very easy in Parsifal. It's very, it's like semi-easy because there are two possible constellations, as I said, in Lohengrin. Tristan and Isolde will be complicated. Just gonna say now, also because Wagner himself didn't say this one's good, this one's bad. There's no Jewish knight figure, and there's no Germanic hero, no Germanic light figure in Tristan and Isolde. It's just not there. And then Meistersinger. Meistersinger, if you read through it, bad guys, obviously. Obvious. If you read through it, and if you only see the actions of people, it's very obvious who the good guy is in Meistersinger. Just gonna say it like this, because he ruins every other option. But we're gonna talk about this in 3 weeks. Oh god. Hopefully I'll have my grade from the exam from next week. Until then. You may have noticed this, I'm a bit confused right now because obviously last week I got my grade for my bachelor's thesis, and well, this week I have to study for this exam in musicology, and it's really hard because I'm gonna say it, I failed it before, so I'm panicking extremely. You might have noticed this. So anyway, next week is Lohengrin, 2 possible constellations, and yeah, see you next week. I hope you have a good time. Hopefully I have a good time, because I told myself that the last vocal score that I don't have of Wagner's is Meistersinger. So if the exam goes well next week, then I'm going to go to my, like, the usual shop. There's always one shop everywhere where you get your scores, and I'm going to go there after the exam if it's good, if it went good, and going to get the vocal score of Meistersinger and Gypsy, but mostly Meistersinger. So after this very rambling thing again, I don't know, it's kind of rambling these weeks a bit. Hopefully it's next week's better. Unless, of course, I have to redo the exam again. And then I'll be confused for a few more weeks. Anyway, have a nice day. I hope this wasn't too confusing. I don't think, hope it was. Probably more confusing what I was talking about the whole time. Yeah, have a nice day. Bye.